Hi there. Welcome to the 2024 Meet the Candidates Night in Cold Spring Harbor. Can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. On behalf of the Central Parents Council, or CPC, tonight, I would like to welcome and introduce three Cold Spring Harbor residents, Heather Moranti Young, Mark Italienti, and Scott Kaufman. They are your neighbors, parents to your children's friends, and community members willing to volunteer their time to serve for the next 3 years representing the district's best interests on the Board of Education. The board's responsibilities include determining the goals for the district, hiring the superintendent of schools, assistant superintendents, administrative staff, and teachers, adopting textbooks and resources, establishing a budget for operational needs and programs, and authorizing expenditures. We're pleased to share that the event tonight is being recorded and will be posted on the district website afterwards, a change from prior years that we hope allows for more community members to directly hear from candidates to inform their vote. We believe hosting tonight is the best opportunity for community members to hear candidates to express themselves publicly. It takes a lot of courage to come up here and field live questions from your fellow community members, and I know that we will afford them the respect and civility that they deserve. With regards to the format, last week the district issued new protocols, which are a departure, but as a condition to host tonight's Meet the Candidates here at the PAC, we will strictly adhere to these procedures. We have copies available of the procedures in the back when you first walk in the door, and there's also a QR code to access the CPC's website for additional information. The CPC will moderate tonight, and we are going to be very direct. If the moderator feels the questions are in any way inappropriate, speculative, repetitive, incendiary, and/or abusive towards the candidates, the District Board of Education, the administration, the staff, the students, and our community, you will be given one opportunity to rephrase your question. The moderator reserves the right to reject a question if we feel it is deemed inappropriate. That decision will be final, and any further argument will risk the moderator immediately ending this event, which none of us wants. So please remember to be respectful to everyone in this room and those watching at home. In order to adhere to the 2.5-hour time limit included in tonight's procedures, if you wish to ask a question, please note the following. If you can come up, or if you haven't already, there is a sign-up letter on the podium. Now is your chance to come up and sign your name, and we will go in that order. If possible, please sit by an aisle, and when your name is called, come to the microphone, state your name and street, ask your question, and then promptly return to your seat for the response. You will have 25 seconds to ask one question. This is not the forum for political or personal statements or to raise concerns regarding specific community members, staff, or students. Questions will not be permitted that are inappropriate, repetitive, incendiary, and/or abusive. If there is additional time, we will then allow second questions on other topics once other community members have had a turn. If your question is asked before you get to the mic, even if it's a little different, we kindly ask that you either ask a different question on a different topic or announce pass to avoid the redundant questions. Questions may be directed to an individual candidate or to all, although all are permitted to answer. They will have 1.5 minutes to respond, no rebuttals. The last question will be asked no later than 9:15 tonight, even if there are remaining questions. The moderator will announce that this is the last question, and the candidates will then make their closing statements. The event will end at 9:40 p.m. If you have any outstanding questions, please contact the candidates, and you can find their contact information on the CPC page. No other recordings are allowed other than the audiovisual recording from the district, and the candidates are not allowed to answer or encourage on how to vote with the budget, yes or no, on the proposition. Tonight we will begin with opening statements from the candidates, starting in alphabetical order by first name with Ms. Heather Moranti Young.
Good evening. Thank you to the CPC for moderating this tonight for us. I'm Heather Moranti Young and a lifelong resident of the community in Cold Spring Harbor. My 2 children, Violetta and Viviana, are currently attending Westside School. Violetta will be at the junior-senior high school this fall. I believe in the quality education our school district provides and want to ensure that our children continue to benefit from the same high-quality education I received as a student at Cold Spring Harbor. I have a vested interest in our community and will continue to prioritize my position as a Board of Education member while ensuring this role receives my undivided attention. With my 3 years on the board, I will be the longest-serving experienced board member. I have the requisite knowledge of process and procedures and have demonstrated my willingness to roll up my sleeves and get things done for our community. I will continue to focus on sustaining and improving upon Cold Spring Harbor's years of academic excellence while enhancing the students' experience in the classroom, in the arts, and on the field. The changes to our school board these past years have been reflective of the desires and needs of our district. Over the next 3 years, I will continue to focus on preservation of an open and transparent environment for all stakeholders so that they may participate in open discussion and remain aware of changes and happenings in our schools. It is essential that all our residents have a voice and the opportunity to share opinions, offer feedback, and participate in our children's education. I will continue to utilize the problem-solving and decision-making skills that I have developed practicing law while considering the key issues facing our school district and assisting our board with advocacy to the state and local government. Additionally, my degree in business assists in my evaluation of the fiscal considerations, ensuring that the school's future budgets are well spent, maximizing the benefit to all students and residents. While serving on this board, I will continue my parent volunteer work at the elementary school and at the junior-senior high school level so that I may remain connected directly to our schools. My volunteer work enhances my communication with parents, staff, and all stakeholders, and gives me the opportunity to view the varied experiences Cold Spring Harbor provides through the perspective of a student, whether it be making the transatlantic crossing with the 4th graders during our Ellis Island reenactment later this month, or pinning costumes and fixing wigs in the band room minutes before the students go on stage. I carry these conversations, experiences, and insights with me to the boardroom. If elected, I pledge to continue to represent to the best of my ability the interests of all students in this school district, while providing my perspective as a parent of children and lifelong member of this community. Thank you.
And now we'll go to,
Hi, is there a way to see the 3 minutes? Because I want to come in
Yeah.
under.
you can change that. Next, we have Mr. Mark Italienti speaking.
Hi, thank you very much, and thank you to all the volunteers who put this evening together, and to Kathy, who works in the district office and helps with the election process. I also want to thank the people that have reached out to me with positive comments and support. It's been inspiring and appreciated. Hopefully you had a chance to look at my district letter for some biological information, biographical, and my key priorities. My goal tonight is to give you a sense of how I would approach my responsibilities as a board member. I think it's important you know your board members and how they think. Fewer things are more important than getting a child's education right. Your time in school shapes who you are in many respects for the rest of your life. These are formative years. That's why you have to treat this role as board member with great respect and seek to provide our children with a rich and balanced educational experience where they learn a diversity of ideas, how to think critically, not to accept things at face value, and then we'll leave it up to them to decide what they're going to believe. I'm running for Board of Education, not Board of Indoctrination. I believe when education becomes ideological, you're stealing that child's education. So since graduating college 35 years ago, and I didn't realize it was 35 years until I prepared for this, it's a long time. I spent the vast majority of my career in investing, analyzing, and advising businesses. In many respects, the school district has all the aspects of a business, and I believe the skills and experience I've acquired over those 35 years will serve the board well. What you should know about me is I take great pride in any team I'm part of, and for that reason I will work tirelessly for your child and mine to make sure they are getting the educational experience that suits them best. Let's be aspirational. This is how the well-run companies I advise think, let's get our money's worth when we spend it. The current board, in my opinion, are doing many things right, but I believe there is never a ceiling on success. And if elected, please reach out to me because I want to talk to parents, to students, to graduates, to faculty, to administration, to security, to get their ideas, how we can make this district the best it can be. I want to hear what we're doing well and what we need to be doing better. My attitude is, this is Cold Spring Harbor. Let's think big. Let's be the benchmark by which other schools strive to emulate, and that's the mindset I will bring to my role if elected.
Thank you, and now we're going to move to Mr. Scott Kaufman.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the CPC for hosting this event. I'm sure it was no small feat to organize an event like this, and I appreciate how vital of a service this is to our community. I'd also like to thank all of you for coming out tonight to hear from us and for taking such active roles in the education of our children. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Kaufman. I grew up in Cold Spring Harbor, attended our schools from K to 12, graduated Cold Spring Harbor in high school in 2007. I met my wife, Elise, who many of you might know, in our schools. Both of our parents still live in the district. I now have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, Sarah and Leo, and I'm so excited for them to have the opportunity to grow up in this wonderful community and attend our excellent schools. I'm running to be a trustee on our district's Board of Education because I want to continue and evolve the wonderful work that the board, including Heather, has been doing to deliver excellence in education for every student. I'm thrilled to see the recent success of our robotics team, multiple Long Island Arts Alliance award winners, presidential scholarship recipients, debate champions, and countless student athletes moving on to play collegiate level athletics. The diversity of academic and extracurricular achievements that our students have accomplished is honestly inspiring. As a parent of young children, my kids will be attending our schools here for the next 17 years. And I'm heavily invested in ensuring that our schools continue to deliver excellence for all of the students in our community, which starts with choices that we make right now. My number one priority will be to maintain and grow the array of excellent programming that we offer to all of our students. Professionally, I advise some of the world's largest corporations, from financial institutions to large tech companies, on multi-year strategic planning, investment allocation, and cost optimization. I know that to do this right means holding steady to a desired outcome. In this case, delivering an unparalleled education to all of our students while making tough trade-offs with an objective framework and fact base. I will look to all of you for guidance on what students need while listening to our teachers and administrators to make sure they have what they need to educate our children best. And I'll look outside our district for benchmarks on what the best schools in our country are offering, making it a goal to offer programming at the same level, be it in arts, athletics, engineering, special education, and everything in between. I look forward to the opportunity to answer your questions this evening and getting to know those of you who I may not know already. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we begin, we're going to go in order from those who put their names on the sign-in sheet over at the podium. If you still have additional questions, you're welcome to go and sign up where
It's in the back.
in the back table. If you have questions during the event, if you haven't had a chance to already write your name down, please go in the back and you can sign your name down, and we'll pull that up in a little bit. So just a reminder, this event is being video recorded and no other recording is permitted. Single questions under 25 seconds to accommodate as many participants as possible this evening. Please keep questions related to Board of Education responsibilities. Questions may be directed to an individual or to all, although all are permitted to answer, and no rebuttals. And kindly announce pass if a similar question has already been asked. First, we're going to call and ask Allison Meyerhans to come up to the podium. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Allison Meyerhans. I live Van Wyck Lane in Lloyd Harbor. Thank you for fielding live questions. Half Hollow Hills Board of Education recently voted to add armed guards to their campuses through their partnership with Covert Investigations and Securities, the same company that our district uses. Do you think that Cold Spring Harbor School District should or should not explore this option?
So we're going to begin actually with, as we're alternating between candidates during the Q&A, we're going to begin with Mr. Marco Taliente.
Hi, thank you for the question. I certainly think it's worth consideration. Anytime there's a proposal, I think we should look, see what professionals are doing, look at what other school districts are doing, see if it's effective. Safety of our children should be paramount, and I don't think we should we should leave any stone unturned. So if other districts are looking at armed security as an option, I know the district is committed. This board has done a lot to advance security, and I don't think they've crossed that bridge yet, as far as I know, but I wouldn't be surprised if that comes up, and if on the board, I would certainly ask the, okay, I'm getting used to the minute and a half. I certainly think it's something the community needs to speak on. If the community does not want that, I think they should be heard. I don't think the board should override the vast majority of the community's opinion on that. But if the vast majority of the community supports that, I think and the data bears out that, that's quicker response time. It will save lives. It's something to look at.
And now we'll give the opportunity to Mr. Kaufman.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So first of all, I think physical security is critical to learning, right? You can't learn if you're not feeling safe, both physically, emotionally, mentally, right? We should explore options to ensure that our students do feel physically safe. If armed guards is an effective measure, right, and the data clearly bears out that armed guards is an effective measure at keeping our children safe and securing them, then of course we should explore that as an option. Just like we should explore any option that keeps our children safer and makes sure that our environment is as physically secure as it can be, still within the realm of ensuring that our children feel free. We don't want it to look like a prison, but generally speaking, I think absolutely. If it's something that clearly is effective in other districts and other districts are considering it, and experts say that it is something that would keep our district and our students safer, then it's something we could explore.
And now from Heather Maranta-Young.
Thank you. Students' safety should be at the very top of the board's priority list. I was aware that districts in the surrounding area have hired consulting firms with roving armed guards. Prior to making decisions concerning armed guards, the board would do its due diligence, and I'd be supportive of that, evaluating studies of the efficacy of the guards, armed guards, and consulting programs other schools currently have in place. And of course, importantly, reaching out to our community and having those conversations. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please come up to the podium, Paul Kravitz.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Paul Kravitz, and I've sent 2 young men successfully through the district. I want to focus on what one of the candidates addressed, which was critical thinking. And I want to know what role the board has in not only having Cold Spring Harbor have AP tests and be listed as one of the best public schools in America, but how to create independent, critical thinkers. And if the board has a role, how does that get negotiated with teachers, with administration, and with students? And the second part of my question is there a district that you know of that you would want to emulate in this regard?
Thank you. And this question will go to Scott.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Yes, critical thinking is obviously, I think, probably the most important skill that anybody can learn in our schools, frankly. I think we all see the direction the world is going. AI is out there, right? I'm not saying kids shouldn't learn. There's a lot of topics that everyone needs to be very involved in learning with, but I think critical thinking is definitely probably one of the top things that we need to teach our children to be able to do, right? It starts with listening to our teachers and our educators and our administrators, right? In thinking through what are the ways in which you kind of drive critical thinking and teach critical thinking. That's where they shine, right? That's what they're professionals at doing. And of course, offering a variety of perspectives, right? Making sure that our children are aware of different life experiences that people might have, different perspectives that people might have that are critical to actually thinking critically, right? If we're all kind of coming at things from the same perspective or you know, being exposed to similar viewpoints, it's very hard to actually think critically. And so I would hope that we can drive that diversity of perspectives and experiences, that our teachers can drive that ability to think critically. And at least when I was in the school here, I always appreciated how much our teachers really drove that home, and that was one of the top things that they always, we always looked at things from multiple perspectives and wrestled with hard topics, and I think we should continue to do that.
And Heather, you're up next.
All right. Taking notes. All right. Critical thinking is a very important skill that our students can take forward and with them into higher education. It would serve them well. We have many classes here with a robust curriculum that the students can get varied perspectives. I think that's a very important part of the curriculum. They also have the chance to take advantage of some of our clubs like Model UN or courses like debate, which would definitely enhance their critical thinking skills, rely and leverage our teachers to deliver these skills, and they do an excellent job in doing so. The second part of the discussion is there a district in this that we would emulate. I think we would always look to other school districts to see what course offerings that they have, and if they're varied, what other clubs or opportunities are there out there for students. I don't know if there's one district in particular. Oh, thank you.
Oh, no, you have
No,
30
I have a
seconds.
little more.
Use
Oh,
it.
I was just gonna wrap it up and say, not one named district in particular. I think we have to look to all surrounding districts and other schools and to see what's going on to make our best decision to learn more.
Thank you, and Mark, your turn.
Very good. Thank you, Doctor, for the question. I couldn't agree more. You're going to forget dates of events, when, things you learn. But when you leave the school, hopefully you learn that skill. That was one of my most valuable classes in college, critical thinking, and it's a skill that you need to leave this place. So if I'm not going to tell you I'm an expert on it. I know my daughter does Model UN, my daughter does debate, and there is critical thinking involved in that. I don't know if there's specific classes or what the emphasis is. I know there used to be a theme in Westside about grit, and I really appreciated that because grit is so important to instill in kids as well. And that's why I said in my comments, I want to talk to parents, faculty. I want to find out what you think we should be emphasizing. I certainly think critical thinking should be emphasized, and if we're not doing enough, I'd certainly advocate for that, because that is a skill that gives you freedom of thought, independence, do your own work, just don't take things at face value, and it makes your life a lot better, and you're a more informed citizen. We have a better country.
Thank you. For our third question tonight, if Mr. Chris Hadjandreas can please come up to the podium, ask your question, and then return to your seat. And then for anyone who else has come in since we began, if you do have a question that you would like to ask, there is a sign-up sheet in the back of the room. Please add your name to that list. Thank you. Mr. Hadjandreas, please begin.
Hello, my name is Chris Hadjandreas. I have 3 kids in the district, and my question is specific for Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Kaufman, recently we all received your letter as well as all the other candidates' letters. And in your letter, your bio, you state, quote, "I have strived to always be transparent." However, when a few parents raised a valid concern and question to you on your Facebook announcement of your campaign for Cold Spring Harbor School Board about your promotion and advocacy of police reform groups in Nassau County, you chose not to answer the question. You also went as far as to block anyone else from asking further questions.
Mr. Hadjandreas, if you can ask your question and
Yes, I
finish
will.
that.
So you also blocked other people from asking questions. And you proceeded to make your page private and blocked
Mr.
anybody from
Hadjandreas?
seeing your
Sir?
posts. I'm asking
I'm
my
sorry,
question.
do you have a question?
My concern is that while the words in your bio make claims of transparency, your actions when faced with your very first challenge by a few community members was anything but transparent. What was your reasoning for not answering those questions? And perhaps more importantly,
Sir, there's no
I'm asking my
being asked.
question.
Please rephrase your question.
Why did you hide your profile and advocacy from public view? Is this how you will be as a board member if elected?
Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Please sit down, sir. Thank you.
I will respond to that question in a few different ways. The first response is just on a fact base. I don't think it's appropriate to ask about the privacy of my Facebook profile in this setting. If you're asking about transparency, I did message those people individually. You can go and ask them if I messaged them individually, because I don't feel like Facebook is a good forum to have a public debate or conversation. If you're asking about my stance on transparency, I will go ahead and say my criminal justice reform work, which I do, and I will openly say here, it is not police reform, it is criminal justice reform. I'm more than happy to talk about it in a lot of detail if you would like in a separate forum. I can also tell you that it is certainly not germane to the work that I would be doing in the Board of Education. When it comes to transparency, primarily my work with regards to criminal justice reform is about facilitating and driving transparency within government organizations. That's mostly what I advocate for, and I work across the spectrum of political views, including with police officers and law enforcement. And I have full respect for all of the law enforcement officers that put their lives on the line to keep our community safe. But once again, if you would like to actually hear more about my work on criminal justice reform, please text me, call me, email me. I tried to grab coffee with one person who said he didn't want to talk to me because he didn't think we'd see eye to eye, but I am always open to talk about any of the work that I do, and I'm very transparent in how I operate, both professionally in my job and absolutely as a Board of Education member. But thank you for your concern and question.
Okay. Daniel Carpin?
My name is Daniel Carpin. I'm a licensed professional engineer. I've lived in the district since 1955. My question to all the board members is, how would you change the way we teach climate education right now? Because when I talk to students, they tell me they learn almost nothing.
Thank you for your question. You can have a seat, and while we have the response, we'll begin with Heather.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carmen. It's good to see you. The school district does include climate change. I know you've been to our board meetings in the past, and Ms. Lagatude has provided you some information on that. And also, you've been welcome to speak with some of our students, which I'm sure is a welcome opportunity for them for some more education. So if you have further questions about how the board addresses it, definitely reach out to Ms. Lagatuda, and she will point you in the right direction for what you're looking for.
Thank you. Mark, if you'd like to respond.
Thank you. So I guess the question is, you're displeased with how the district is teaching climate change?
Correct.
Thank you. And we can't have a back and forth, but I'm just this is why I want to talk to parents to find out what exactly you're displeased about, and if we're not teaching it, not giving it its due. It's such a pervasive topic in this world today. I'd be shocked if the district wasn't discussing it, but maybe they're not discussing it the way you want. So I actually have no idea what we're teaching our kids on climate change, and I would have to assume they are being taught climate change. It seems it's such a topic of the day, so I can't tell you one way or the other if they're getting their due, but again, this might be upsetting to people. I think we should teach about climate change and also teach about all facets of climate change. Is it man-made? Can we control
Yes.
it? Can we not control it? let's discuss it in a fulsome manner. When I was growing up, we were taught about global cooling. That's different than climate change. Then we were taught about global warming, and now we're discussing climate change. Oh, I'm out of time.
Time is up. Thank
So let's
you.
have the full discussion.
And just a reminder to please stay in your seats if you can during the question and answer so we
Stay
can
what?
move on.
What was that?
If people who are asking questions, if you don't mind sitting during the responses, thank you. We're going to start next with Scott. You can take the last part of that.
Sure, yeah. It's a good question, valid concern. Honestly, I do echo Mark's sentiment in the sense that we need to ask parents where the gaps are, right? If there is a real gap in our curriculum with regards to climate change, it's a super important topic, probably something that our children will be dealing with probably even more so than we are today. And they should be prepped on how to think about it, how to deal with it, how to look at it critically. I don't know. I can't answer your question on whether or not we teach it adequately today. I know when I was in school here, we had earth science. I'm sure we continue to offer earth science and other coursework, but it absolutely could be a gap. I just don't know. And what I'd want to do is go out to the parents and appreciate and understand the concerns that they might have with regards to how their children are being taught about climate change, and if there is a gap there, an opportunity to expand our children's understanding of the world that we live in. By all means, we should strive to, again, benchmark ourselves against the best programming and teach that in a meaningful way. But yeah, I think that would be my approach, right? Which would be to ask the parents of the district and the teachers and the administrators, right, whether or not they think we are approaching this topic adequately, and if we're not, then remediate that.
We are not
Thank
doing
you
a good
so
job
much.
at all, not at all. And when I
Sir,
was in
thank-
eighth
sir,
grade,
Thank you.
Thank
We
you,
have-
Mr. Carpin. For the interest of time, we do ask that the next person come up to speak.
Thank
If
you
they're
so
fir-
much.
thank
Can
you.
Mr. Joe Larson please come to the podium and ask your question?
Hi, Joe Larson, Lloyd Harbor. When staffing shortages affect children with special education programming, the district may be legally out of compliance with those children's IEPs. What measures do you think the Board of Education can take to help ensure that students with disabilities receive supports and services they are entitled to?
Thank you, and this time it's Mark. You'll begin with the question.
Hi, thank you. I think the way we deal with staffing shortages to meet needs is be an employer of choice. I sent a district letter around, and one with 5 priorities. One of them was to be an employer of choice, not only in terms of that's when I referred to the school as a business, and part of a business, you want people to come work for you. And you do that by compensation, by environment, so when they want to come here. And that's how you fill those gaps. There's a limited number probably of people that can fill those roles, and you have to be competitive to get those people to come here if there is a shortage. And you do that by offering a whole package. When I want people to hear, you work at Cold Spring Harbor, you're so lucky. And that's the environment I want to create for our faculty, for anybody actually that's touching our kids in any way. I want them to come to work fully motivated, happy to be here, inspired, and ready to go.
Thank you. Scott, you may take the question.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, children with developmental needs or who might need special accommodations, I would say this: our programming should be top tier. Period. Right? We should strive to have the best programming for every student across the board. We should be looking to see what schools outside of our district are doing in terms of addressing these needs, and we should strive to do that here. And if we're falling short, then we should look to see where we can invest to ensure that we are meeting those needs. When it comes to resource allocation, as I've said, I've done this a fair amount at large companies, and the easy question to answer is, why are you funding this thing? It's a very easy question to answer because somebody always has a clear perspective on why something is important and critical to them. The much harder question is, when you do fund that thing, why are you not funding that other thing? Why is that other thing not important or less important? When it comes to how we think about treating children and resources for children that might have different needs in terms of educational support, we need to make sure that we are holding ourselves to the same high bar that we hold ourselves to across the board, and we need to be making the right investment decisions to ensure that we are putting our resources toward building out those programs sufficiently, even if it makes even if it involves a hard trade-off against something else that we also think is important, because every student really does deserve, the best education we can possibly give.
Thank you. Heather?
Thank you. Mark, I think you made a great point. We do at Cold Spring Harbor seek to be an employer of choice. If an issue like this does arise, when it does arise, the board should be consulting with its superintendent on this, the principals, the building leaders, to ensure that the appropriate levels of instruction are being provided for every child. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person, Amy Howell, if you can please come up.
Good evening. What school-driven events or groups have you been involved with, and how has it informed your decision to run for the Board of Ed?
Thank you. Scott, you'll take that question first?
Sure, yeah. So obviously I have very little kids. My youngest is 2. My oldest is 5. He'll be in kindergarten next year. I'm super excited to get more involved in basically every facet of our school and learn more about the Booster Club and the Ed Foundation, and get more involved in the CPC and the PTG and all of the various groups. Obviously, to date, I've listened to and I've attended every board meeting that I can, and listened to, most importantly, all of the board meetings that have happened in the past year, to make sure that I stay abreast of the things that are happening in our community, and that's how I've stayed informed to date. But like I said, on a go-forward basis, I'm sitting here. Obviously, I want to be very interested and invested in the education that all of our children receive. Like I said, I have 17 more years of my children being in this district, and a lot of investments we make today, a lot of actions we take today, won't manifest for another 3-5 years. Things take a long time to happen, right? Big capital infrastructure projects can take years. Starting up new classes can take years. Even universal pre-K was a New York State thing 3 years ago. We're finally piloting it now, and it might be another couple years until we're at full scale. So things take a long time, and I'm excited to get involved now and make sure that we're set up for success.
Thank you. Heather?
Okay.
Just one second.
Um,
Okay, go.
Ready? My desire to be involved and be on this Board of Education is motivated for my desire that my children have the best possible education, and that each and every student here has the best possible education. A big part of me being aware of what the students need and the desires of the parents and getting to know the staff has been my volunteer work and my involvement. I started when my kids were younger, being a class parent and a volunteer. And right now, I'm the vice president of the board. I'm involved in numerous board committees, audit committee, the policy committee, the professional development committee currently. I also help with advocacy work on the board, but when I'm not wearing my board hat, I'm sharing things at the school. The Ellis Island reenactment's a wonderful event I work on with our 4th grade. I'm very involved with our theater association as the costume chair, and I attend all our board meetings with very few exceptions, and frequently our PTG meetings, our CPC meetings, and community events like the West Side Run, the Remembrance Bowl, and I try to be at all our plays, and I'm running out of time, but that's my volunteer work.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. So my interaction with the school has been through my 2 daughters. I have a 7th and a 10th grader. They have lived in the district since they were in preschool. So Goose Hill, West Side, they were West Siders, and junior high, and now the high school. And I've been to everything a parent can go to for their child. I've been to the trips, to the Science Museum, to Philly. I was a debate judge, and I love that to see the kids, the next generation of talent, some very impressive kids. Ellis Island volunteer, Booster Club member, been concerts, back to school night, orchestra, many board meetings I speak at. When I go to a board meeting, I'm never going for my kids, I'm going for all our kids. I discuss topics that affect all the kids, because that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm running out of time. So I get 3 minutes when I go to a board meeting, and actually a lot of my suggestions, including this one tonight, where the people ask their own questions, I said, let's just go direct. A lot of my suggestions have been adopted, and I think if I have more than 3 minutes, I can even do more for the district, so I'm hoping to get a seat on the board.
Okay, that's it. The next question, Kristen Provenzero.
Good evening. I'd like to ask that each of the candidates explain their approach to evaluating the annual budget and what they feel their institutional priorities are for ROI for our students.
Thank you. Heather, can you begin with that one?
Okay. Well, we just did a budget, so I'm ready for this one. All right. So as a board, we do seek to present the community with a well-balanced budget that improves upon programming, the classroom experience, without making any unnecessary or harmful cuts. We try to do so while keeping the tap cap relatively low to ensure no undue hardship to the taxpayers. I feel really positively about all the aspects of our budget, from lower class sizes, the introduction of UPK, ICT classes, supporting current and new athletic programs, and improvements to security. They are all things that help children, and they are included in this budget, and the community will speak on this when they come to vote May 21st. Thank you.
So I can't ask for the question again, can I?
I think you
I'm
can.
sorry.
Do you mind repeating the
May I
question?
please have that question one more time? I want to make
Thank you.
sure I answer it specifically.
Sure, I feel like I'm at a political debate. Okay. I'd like to ask that each of the candidates explain their approach to evaluating the annual budget and what they feel their institutional priorities are for ROI for our students.
So, in terms of evaluating the budget, this budget, I really think that I don't know what the budget could have been, meaning this is a budget that was developed. It certainly seemed, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say, but it seems like a good budget. But again, the way I would approach a budget is to find out the aspirations of the teachers, the administration, the parents, the kids, and build that kind of budget. Let's see what's a dream budget, and then let's see what the cost of that budget is, and let's try to implement that budget. I think the budget should be aspirational. I think the budget should make an effort to make us really the envy of the other districts in terms of, this district offers the arts, athletics, academics, second to none, their staff, second to none. I mean, really, when you build a budget, as again, the companies I work for, the good ones, they're very aspirational. They build the right team. You have to have the right team in place, and then you execute. And that's how I would go about and I apologize if that's not your question, but that's how I would build a budget.
Scott, your turn.
Sure. So it's a great question. I think I have a fairly clear framework, right, that we could apply, and sort of the mentality that I would take when it comes to the budget, right? First of all, I think as Mark said, our benchmark should really be the best in class that we can offer across the board, across all of our programming, So what we should do is we should look to see where we're falling short, where we're at the bar, and where we're exceeding the bar with regards to the programming that we do offer, right? And then where we are falling short, or where there's areas where we really do need to invest in order to maintain our positioning, we should look at that, right, and figure out what the tactical gaps are between where we are and where we need to be, right, from an aspirational perspective. You're going to come up with a long list of things, right, and you're going to get that input from teachers, you're going to get that input from parents and administrators, right, and you're going to have a long list of things that we really should be doing in order to get to the bar, right, in terms of the type of programming that we want to offer. You can't do everything, so we'll have to stack rank that, right, and see where we can make investments to get the best return in order to deliver the most excellent education that we can. So it's tough, because it means that there's trade-offs, right? But like I said before, I think the most important question that you can always ask about investing, where you should put your money, is what are you not spending your money on when you spend your money on that thing? If you're comfortable with not spending your money on that, then maybe it's a good thing to invest in. But I think that's important, and that's the type of questioning that I would want to bring, and the type of sort of systematic, fact-based framework that I want to look at when it comes to our budget.
Perfect. Done. Trisha Adriano, please come to the podium.
It's Abadano,
Oh.
sorry. I live at 20 Van Wyck Lane. I just want to know, how involved do you think the BOE should be in managing and shaping curriculum?
This will be, Mark, you'll take the first attempt at this.
Thank you. So I do believe the board does have an important oversight function in curriculum. Do they micromanage curriculum? I don't believe they should. A board is a board. You have to hire your team, your superintendent, your CEO, you have an executive team, you have teachers. They all need to be on the same page. If they're in conflict, that's a problem. So, there was even the question of choices recently where there was debate and the board discussed the choices program. And, that could be considered curriculum. Maybe that's where the question's coming from. I think, again, it goes back to what I was saying, that community was coming at it from the substance of the program being one way or the other in terms of a view. We want to teach our kids a diversity of opinions, and it comes down to the teacher in the classroom instilling balance in that discussion. So you can take a biased piece and use it as an educational piece. So it's more about the teacher and the philosophy of this school district than the material in terms of teaching curriculum. And that's what our super said, balance. That's what the that's what our principal said, and that's what I said at the board meeting. Let's focus on balance.
Thank you. Scott, your turn.
Sure. Yeah. So most importantly, right, our teachers and our administrators have to feel empowered, right, to shape the curriculum in some way, right, and ensure that they are. That's how they're going to bring their passion and their excitement to work every day. If they feel like they're being micromanaged by the board, I think that's when you run into issues. So obviously the board is an accountability mechanism, but we have to give them the autonomy and the power to go ahead and bring their passions and excitement to work. Now look, we do have an attrition problem in our district. There's no denying it, right? We have about 14% attrition. I think it's higher than pretty much all the other districts. So despite the fact that it's a national trend, we are on the receiving end of a worse than national average. So there's essentially three reasons, from what I can tell. I've looked at a lot of research and surveys on this. One is comp. I don't think we're short there. Two is alignment with vision and goals of the district. Three is feeling like you have autonomy. Those are the top three reasons teachers said as to why they stayed or left the job. I think it's critical that we do address those second two issues, and that the board makes sure that while we are overseeing appropriately, we're not overstepping and micromanaging.
Thank you. Heather, your turn.
Thank you. So, like Scott and Mark said, the board does not want to micromanage its teaching staff, though it has general oversight of the curriculum. The Board of Education represents the views of our community, providing input to our superintendent. As such, it plays a role in representing policies its community wishes to have in place. The areas of input could be finance, safety, and also sometimes curriculum. That's it. Thank you.
The next person, if that can be Violetta Patrick.
Good evening. Good evening. I would like to know what your personal investment is in why you wanted to become a board member. Like, what is it that is driving you personally to become a board member?
Scott, well, you'll start. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. Look, for me, it's kind of what I said in the opening remarks, right? I was a graduate of this district, so I know the excellent opportunities that it's afforded me and the excellent education that I was able to receive here. It's great to see that we're moving in a direction where we're even expanding our offerings even more, and I really commend the board. You know, when I was a student here, we didn't have a robotics program. We didn't have a marine wet lab. Like, these are awesome things, right, that they're clearly moving in the right direction. I have two very little kids. Like I said, I have almost 2 decades more of my children being in these schools. And I know, like I said, that it takes quite a long time for things to manifest, for investments to pan out, and just to make, you know, a change. So my personal motivation is ensuring that we're setting our school up for success, both today and continuing that position of excellence that we offer, but moving in the direction of you know, continuing to expand our programming, continuing to build the best school we can possibly build for both our current students and for our future students, for students of all needs, right? There's a lot of passion, a lot of different passions, interests, needs that our students have, and I think, you know, making sure that we can deliver the best education possible for all of our students is really my primary motivation.
Thank you. Heather, your turn.
So part of in my personal investment in this community is a large part of the reason I am a board member, as a lifelong member of this community also. Like I said before, it's really important to me that my children have the best possible education, and that I want also all of your students to have, all your children to benefit from that wonderful education. As a board member, we help to guide the direction of the schools by creating board goals and developing a vision for the community and for our schools, and it's important to keep a line of communication open between our other board members, the staff, our parents, and it's through that, I think, as a board member, we can best do our jobs and guide the work that we do. So, Mark?
Thank you. My main motivation for wanting to serve on the board is service. My father was president of the school board in my town in Edgemont when I was in high school, and he actually was president of 2 school boards when I was very young in a neighboring town in Westchester. And my dad passed away a little over a year ago, and when he did pass away, people came up to me and said, I remember your dad when I worked on the board, and he was awesome. He always fought for us. He was super kind, and my dad did care, and he wanted to give service back to the community. I've been working for 35 years. I advise companies. I think I have a pretty good brain. I want to share it with our community. I want to make this district the best it can be. I live here. My kids live here. Your kids live here. This is the team I'm on, and that's really my motivation. I'm willing to give the school, the district, my services that I give my clients to pay for, and I'm happy to do it for free. And I do think I will do it in a way that benefits all our kids.
Scott, please. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, wait,
He's already,
Yes,
sorry. The next question is then coming from Douglas Patrick.
Thank you and good evening, and thank you to all the candidates here tonight. I think myself being in this district since 1959, I'm very proud of this district, speak highly of it, and I think we're all proud to live in Cold Spring Harbor. But I'd like to know, each one of you individually, what is it that you don't like what's going on in this school today? What is a topic or discussion? What is your aim to what you would like to fix? That you see a problem here, whether or not it could be some kind of diversity issue or so on. But I'd like to know what you don't like. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. You ready? Heather, if you can take the question.
Wait, again, go first.
I'm sorry, do we go?
No, we just, Heather went first.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Now, Mark, please.
Very good. What I don't like, I don't like the long line getting out on traffic in the morning, but that's not, actually, I spoke at the board meeting about that. I calculated as I waited one day, I spend over 2 days a year in my car leaving this place, and that's 2 precious days. Life is short. So, but in more serious, and I suggested a roundabout at the end because it's green and we don't, all that. We're not going to, I only have a minute, 30 seconds. What I don't like, I'm not sure. This district's a very quality district, but I always believe, and also I'm looking at it from the outside. When I advise companies, I know nothing about them when they hire me. And they hire me because they know within a month or 2 I'll know a lot about them and I'll be able to provide them value-added information. And I would do the same with the district. That's why I keep saying I am going to talk to parents, faculty, students. I'd like to get the graduates that came back and say, what could we have done better? What could we have done differently? There's always room to improve. I think the school's going in the right direction. I think the board's doing a good job. And let's just keep shooting higher. Let's be the envy of the districts in this state, and that's really my goal.
Scott?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, honestly, I do echo Mark's sentiment, right? Our district has always been great. We offer excellent programming. Our students have always gone on to do wonderful things, many of them coming back to the community to give back and move back here and raise their families. There's always more you can do. There's always better offerings we can give, more classes we can offer, more extracurricular activities, more ways we can engage with the community around us. Obviously, we're doing a lot more partnerships with the DNA Learning Center, the Huntington Arts Alliance, all of that great stuff. But I think, let's just keep, as I said, benchmarking ourselves against the best schools and the best programming out there and strive to meet it. I don't think there's anything, my kids are quite young and I don't have anything in mind where I would say, oh, that is terrible, or that's being done horribly wrong today, or I'm going to come in and change that, or I think realistically, it's just looking and making sure that we're delivering the best possible education we can, and looking at what other schools are doing, what our teachers are saying, what our parents are saying, what our administrators are saying, what our non-teaching professionals are saying, and taking that into account to make sure our school is as good as it can be.
Heather, go for it.
Thank you. I think you both make great points. The line of traffic way too long. And what I was going to say was also speaking to improving our academics and our ranking. We have an excellent ranking. Our academics here at Cold Spring Harbor were great when I was here. They're wonderful, but we can always improve. And improving our ranking is one of our board goals and our academic programs here. and we've asked our administrators to provide us with comparative data, not only from the state of New York, but from all schools that we find ourselves comparing ourselves to as a community. The board should continue to work with administrators to evaluate whether our schools would benefit from different or additional course offerings, adjustments to the curriculum, including curriculum writing, professional development for our teachers, and that is something that our board will work on with our new superintendent. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next set of questions is Yelena Palazzo. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? My name is Elena Palazzo. I know one thing I've struggled with previously when I've attended Board of Ed meetings is accessibility. So we get some time to speak at the end, but when I voice certain concerns, you can't really respond like you can in this format. I want to know that whoever I'm voting in to the seat is going to be a voice for me. And how accessible are you going to be? Can I call you? Let's say there's a situation where I'm not happy with a teacher in the district. Can I call you? Can I email you? What would you do?
Can you ask, I'm just asking you to wrap up that question. Thank you.
Yeah, how would you respond? So I'm contacting you and saying I'm having an issue with a teacher.
Well,
And I'm also going to say with that is not being completely familiar with all of the Board of Ed rules and regulations. I'm not sure if all of our candidates are going to be well prepared for that question, but I think if you guys want to answer in your own personal way, that's acceptable.
Scott, it's your turn.
Sure. Yeah, so transparency, community input, right, I think are critical. If you don't have the trust of the community, if we're not accessible for you all to be able to talk to reach out to, I think that's a bit of a failure. So I think there's some very easy things, right, that we could do, things like office hours, ensuring that we have regular surveys, that we're soliciting regular feedback. But to your point, right, we should make sure that we are getting all of the input from our community to support all of the issues, right, and get the perspectives that we need. I think there's two critical reasons. One is we should understand the perspectives of all of you, right, and that's what should help drive the decision-making process when it comes to decisions that the board is making. But the second is the board's just not the expert on everything, right? Like there's a lot of things that we're not an expert on, and we need the input from the community to make the right decisions. I think of things like the security booth. I'm sure somebody in our district is actually an expert in security contracting and probably has maybe even built a security booth before, right? So we should make sure that we're reaching out to all of the people and getting all of their input while also ensuring that we're capturing all of the perspectives of the folks in our community. And if you have a specific issue, I would hope that, so long as it's within the purview of the board, I would be very accessible, right? Whether it be a phone call, a coffee, a walk, whatever it might be.
Heather?
Okay. So definitely a board member must be accessible and listen to the concerns of their community. My phone number is on my letter. I don't know if I should be advertising this, but I have some free time now that this is wrapping up, so you can call me. If you bring your concerns to a Board of Ed member, write to us, where appropriate, we would bring those concerns to the rest of the board and the superintendent. We would ask, though, that if you have an issue with a teacher or somebody specific, we have a chain of command that we would ask you to try to follow first. So if we did talk to you, if you did speak to us about an issue with a particular teacher, we would probably refer you back to that teacher and then up the chain of command. And I know you mentioned when you were speaking about audience to visitors, when you came up to speak, we have as a board added a second audience to visitors. So maybe that would be helpful to you next time you come to a board meeting. We instituted it this year, where if you may come up for a question, realize that you have another question after we have discussed some things further. and you could come up and ask again. So hopefully that enhances your conversations with us. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as I said before, I go to board meetings a lot and I speak. One of the things I talked about were transparency, because years ago there was less transparency, in my opinion. That's not happening with this board. There's a lot of open dialogue going back and forth. Transparency is good. If you come to the board and ask a question, there's not that back and forth, but advertising for the CPC, if you go to the CPC meetings, the super's there. Sometimes there's a board member there. There's more of a back and forth. I think another way to improve transparency in our town is to maybe hold a town hall once in a while. That's an idea put before the board that's gone nowhere, but sit in this room, board, sit on the stage, people come up. We need to get the ideas. If you have a point to make, there's a lot of talented people in this town. Let's get your ideas. What can we do to be doing better? What are we doing well? Compliments too should be sent to the board. I do that as well. I write good job to different people in this district. And the last point I'll make is, I'm running out of time, I'm choking. There was a point, time transparency. Oh, I've been saying all night, come and talk to me. That's not a problem. I am going to seek people out, because the people, all right.
Thank you for abiding by the rules. If we can have the next question, Sarah Herrick come up. And while we're waiting, if there are any other questions that if you want to raise one, please go into the back of the room. You can write down your questions. We only have a few questions that are left on the sheets here, so if you do want to go up, please go and write that down. And just a reminder, 25 seconds for the questions at the podium.
Sure.
And I'm sorry.
Thanks, guys.
And hold applause until everyone is finished. Thank you. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I have 2 kids in Lloyd Harbor School. Our third through sixth graders just took the ALA state exams 2 weeks ago. Last year, the results show that only 32% of fourth graders, and I have a fourth grader, are reading at or above the proficiency for ELA. The state is mandating a change for from Teachers College to the science of reading next year. How will you, along with Lagatuda and the rest of the administration, help develop the instructional framework to help ensure that classroom teachers, librarians, and AIS teachers all have the proper materials to navigate this new change in instruction for ELA?
Thank you. For this question, if we can start with Heather.
Okay. We are increasing our focus on literacy work. The superintendent has spoken a little bit about this with our literacy consultant, Mrs. Sewell. She's been working with, I think she worked with, I don't want to misstate, but some of our younger students. I don't know if it's like second grade, first, I forget where she started, and she's going to be continuing this work through the grades. And there's money in the budget devoted to literacy. Additionally, we've expanded some of our math blocks, and that may be something that we could consider doing more work to expand our literacy blocks. So there is more time during the school day to focus on those 2 very important aspects of their education.
Mark.
Thank you. It's good to become aware of an issue, and I do not know the solution. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know the solution without first getting the facts, and that's how I go about doing my work. I want to find out, what are the issues going on? Is there not enough support? Is it, the variety of issues? I want to have I want to look into, why this group is performing differently, and certainly remedy it. I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to problem solve. If there's a weakness, I want to make it a strength. And, I don't know all the factors based on what you just said, but rest assured, that's why I'm doing this. That's what I do in life, and that's what I'll do for our kids.
Scott, your turn.
Sure. So yeah, I don't know the whole fact base here, right? Obviously, it seems like an area of concern that needs to be addressed. I'll go back to the framework that I described earlier around resource allocation, right? So clearly this is an area where we're falling short, right? We're below the bar, we're below where we need to be, relative to probably the best schools in the area but also just, it seems like generally, right? We shouldn't be at that low of a level. So that's an area where obviously we need to invest, right? We need to figure out what the root cause is of why our children are underperforming in that particular area, right? And we need to make the right call to invest in the right resources, right? To bring in the right people, to ensure that we are moving in the right direction and getting to the bar, not just of a state, not just improving the number, but getting to a number that is consistent with the best districts out there. And that being said, I'm sure our teachers have wonderful ideas. I'm sure our administrators have wonderful ideas. I'm sure we can look to other districts to see what they're doing to improve these, and we should make the appropriate investments and trade-offs to ensure that we get those numbers up, because that's obviously quite a concern.
Cecilia Gilroy, can you please come up? Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for being here and volunteering your service to the community. You've all touched on this a little bit, I think, but I'm hoping you can talk a little bit more specifically about what you think we need to be doing or changing around attracting talent, great talent, maybe outside of the compensation aspect that you've already mentioned, but also how you're going to support and retain some of the great talent that we already do have here.
Thank you very much. This one, Mark, if you can begin.
Sure. I mean, you're only as good as your organization. If you do not have an all-star superintendent and support staff and faculty, the place has no chance. That's an area where, as someone that managed money, you sit across the table from management teams all the time. You have to be able to assess talent. I hope to be able to apply that skill when we interview candidates, because it's so right to get that correct. How do we attract talent? There's a variety of ways. I mean, this district is leading in compensation, if you look in the paper. And that's great. We want to be leading that, and also academic performance. And the way you do that is you build the right team, you set the right goals. How do you attract the talent? It's really an environment. It's word of mouth. People hear this district is doing things, and that's, you go to the teachers, you ask them, what would your dream scenario be? And then try to create it. Because motivated teachers have successful students, I believe. And I have ways I'd like to apply the way business incentivizes their employees. I would like, and I only have 1:30 seconds, so you're not going to hear them, but I would like to apply those to our district.
Thank you. Scott, your turn.
Sure. So teacher attrition is a massive issue. It's a massive issue nationally, right? So the trend is that teachers are exiting the profession, unfortunately. I've looked at, like I said, a fair amount of research that's been done on this topic to understand why teachers are leaving. There's essentially 3 reasons: compensation, alignment with the mission and goals of the district, and not feeling supported in the district, right? Those are primarily the 3 reasons. I think over 80% of teachers, there was a survey done, had come back and said that. So when you look at our rationale, I don't think compensation is an issue. So it comes down to probably the second and the third issue, right? Which is one, either our teachers potentially not feeling totally aligned with the value and mission of the district, possible, or two, our teachers not feeling like they have the support of the community, also possible. In fact, I think there was one study that teachers said they would prefer more community support and funding than a 10% raise, right? So something is happening. We need to have a candid conversation with our teachers to understand where they might feel like they're not being supported as much as they need to be. And I agree with Mark. Teachers that come with excitement and passion and are excited to come to work every day are going to yield excited students and people who want to come to school every day. Teachers who feel like this is a job and it's just a chore and they have to come here, you're going to see the opposite impact. So I think we need to have that honest conversation with the teachers and understand what's happening there and where they might need more support.
Heather, your turn.
We should develop a strong onboarding process whereby we are working with our staff to acclimate them to the programs in the community, and then we really work to retain them. As we're in the process of seeking a new superintendent, a goal of ours is to seek a superintendent whose goal is to just do that. It's to just do that. Onboard staff, acclimate them to the district, make them feel comfortable with their positions, and have a strong give and take as they grow in their career here at Cold Spring Harbor.
Just want to see, that was the end of our questions. I just want to make sure there are no other additional questions that. Oh,
I had written my name down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, up there, not pre-submitted.
Oh, okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amy Macaluso. I have 3 children in the district. Thank you again for being here this evening. So as Heather just mentioned, obviously we have an opening for a superintendent. I would love to understand from each of you, what are the top 2 competencies, characteristics, traits that you would be looking for as we look to bring on a superintendent? And if we can try to stay away from transparency being one of them, I'd love to hear if there are other thoughts.
Scott, if you can take this question.
Sure. I think there's two traits. It's if I had to think of the 2 traits that I think one would be someone who is familiar with a district like ours in terms of the type of excellence that we want to achieve, right, for all the students here, right, and is striving to be the best district that we can be in terms of the programming that we offer, the diversity of programming that we offer, and the quality of programming that we offer. So one, just making sure that she or he is aligned to that vision, right, and is willing to put in the work to achieve that, and is, on top of what's happening in all of the other, top school districts in the country, is aware of the cutting edge ways in which children can be educated in the latest research, right, on how to ensure those outcomes. The second thing I would say is it has to be somebody who is motivational, somebody who can inspire her or his staff to bring their best selves to work every day, to bring their passion, their excitement, their interests to work every day, and instill that in our students, right? I think if you lack that, right, then it's very hard to motivate teachers to be their best selves, and so I think that would be the second trait that I would want in a superintendent.
Heather?
Okay. So in one word, transparency. No, I'm just kidding. But it's really important, and trust me. Personally, the qualities I value most in a superintendent is someone with the ability to communicate very well with others and a willingness to listen to our parents, staff, and teachers. Our superintendent should have a strong understanding of our school's community and the desire to improve and strengthen our programs and schools while embracing and affirming our school's culture. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I keep waiting to be called on. Sorry. Okay.
Waiting for the
So,
timer to go.
again, the superintendent is your CEO. I've worked for companies that have replaced their CEO. I've worked for dynamic CEOs. 2 factors, I'm going to cheat. Really, you want somebody that has a reputation a track record of success. You want an innovator. You want, they sent that survey around. Do you think this is important? Do you think this is? I'm like, yes, yes, and yes, and yes. Except for, do they have to know the law? We have a lawyer. You want somebody that is dynamic, that is a communicator, that knows how to motivate their staff, that's inspirational, that's a thinker, thinks outside the box. And, let's not look in the 20-mile, 50-mile radius. Let's look, in this country, when companies I work for hire a CEO, they're not looking for someone down the street. They'll go out and find somebody and try to attract them to the company. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't. And when they do succeed, that company is better off. So let's go find an all-star, as I said, that's good on a multitude of fronts. And, this place will rock and roll.
Thank you. Okay. So for our last question, if Lindsay Kamdar can come up, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Kamdar. I live on Abington Drive. With all the new research coming out about the detrimental effects of cell phone use on children academically, socially, and emotionally, what kind of policy do you think should be implemented at the junior high level during school hours in regards to cell phone use?
Heather, we'll start with you.
All right. Cell phones are clearly a distraction. There are many studies on this, but anybody with a cell phone can tell you just from personal experience, it has a big impact on our lives and even on the lives of some of our youngest students. In light of these valid concerns regarding cell phone use, the Board of Education's Policy Committee, which I'm on, is evaluating our current policy on the electronic devices. We are doing so in conjunction with the advice from administrators located in all our buildings, including at the junior high level, while also considering the procedures that are being implemented at other schools and surrounding area at all the grade levels. We are looking at feedback from our community as well. Further, the Policy Committee has discussed and will continue to discuss with our board the importance of supporting our administrators and our teachers in enforcing these rules. Thank you.
Mark.
Okay, at the risk of the wrath of my 7th grader, there are huge problems, cell phones, and if you saw the movie or the documentary Social Dilemma, if you haven't, I recommend you see it. I made my kids watch it with me. I'm fortunate to have been old enough not to have had this in school. They're a huge distraction. I think the school needs to, the younger the child, probably either zero or very limited access to a cell phone. It's so important they learn to converse with one another, get their head out of a phone. It's a problem I think every parent faces, and really the cell phone policy starts at home. Parents set the policy with their kids, and then the school can certainly do their part, but the parents need to teach the kids how dangerous these devices are, what these apps do, how addicting they are, and that really starts at home. And then, parents need to come speak at the board meetings and CPC, wherever, PTG meetings, and, share your thoughts, what you think the policy should be. And the board should have their ears wide open, because that's really a community decision, I think, as much as the 7 people on the board.
Thank you. And Scott, you can take this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, first of all, it's an important decision that the community needs to weigh in on, and that we really need to take some guidance from our administration, right, and our teachers on, who are with our students every single day, right, seeing the negative impact. I think we're beyond the point of hypotheticals here. The negative impact is quite clear I am maybe young enough to be probably personally familiar with how addicting phones can be, and we need to limit. We do need to limit it, right? It goes beyond being a distraction to actually having serious negative implications on things like mental health, anxiety, depression, all the terrible stuff that we see, right? Like it's kind of borne out. So we need to be super careful about how we allow children to access these phones or phones in our schools. But it needs to be a decision that the community really comes together and debates and thinks about in terms of a policy. It can't just be written in isolation, and we need to have some serious input from child psychologists, administrators, teachers, right? All the people who are quite familiar with both the negative impact as well as realistic ways to limit phone usage, because obviously cutting them out of our children's lives forever is probably not going to work. So I'm sure there's many interesting ways that we can consider.
I just want to ask if there's any further questions from the community. Those are the final questions that we have that have signed up. If not, we'll begin with closing.
We have one.
Do we?
Yes. And while she
Okay,
comes
yes.
down, I just want to thank everyone for the questions. I think we got a good variety, and I want to give everyone, take the opportunity to give yourself an applause for that, because I think you came up with great questions. Thank you.
Hi, sorry for the last minute, because I was trying to formulate this in a way that seems justifiable. Janine Ketterer from Laurel Hollow. My question is, because I know we want to light the fires and be motivational and with the administration and whatnot, when it comes time for tenured teachers, what are your thoughts on keeping that fire lit, keeping them accountable? I know that there are times that they are, I don't have anything written down, so I'm trying to get this off the cuff, that they are observed, but there are times that they know that they're being observed. How do you feel about people coming in to observe them without notifying them, just to kind of see what the real world is like? That's basically the question. Thank you.
Does everyone
Ma-
understand that question? You go with that? Okay.
You're clear, okay. Mark, you can start.
Okay, so inspiring tenured teachers, no doubt, is probably a bigger challenge than certainly the teachers without tenure. And again, that's why you need an all-star superintendent, all-star assistant supers and whatnot, because it's an environment, and there's ways to reignite the fire in people. Some people you can't. You could light a bonfire under them and that's it, and that ship will have sailed, but I don't think most people are like that. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges, I guess, an administrator may face, is getting complaints about a teacher that is not performing, and then what levers do they have? I don't know what those options are, but the way I would approach that is through just creating an exciting environment. Maybe sit down with the teacher and figure out with a conversation, what are your passions? What would you love to be doing? If you could choose, what would you like to see different? And when they get brought in the conversation and they feel like they're part of the community and they're vested and they're being asked their opinion, that could certainly help. But again, I don't know what levers. I'll stop.
Scott, your turn.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Mark said. I think as long as teachers are excited about being a part of this community, that they have the autonomy to teach different subjects that maybe they're quite impassioned about, right? It's great that Mr. Hardy is the robotics coach. I mean, that's awesome. And that there's so many that teachers get the opportunity to do the things that they love. That's gonna keep them motivated. I'm confident in that, right? More so than, and I think that would offset any sort of lack of motivation from that having tenure might instill. I would be personally wary about instilling any sort of distrust, like I think observers are great. Like, it's important to have some observers and understand what's happening in the classrooms. I don't think you want teachers to feel like there's a lot of distrust of how they're teaching. I don't think you want to really create a negative environment. I think the most important thing is just keeping them really excited, and that's why having a great superintendent is important as well. Keeping them excited and passionate about what they're teaching, how they're teaching, and that they're instilling this passion in our students. And I think that's probably the best way to motivate people once they have tenure.
Heather?
All right. Well, I think during observations, it would always be helpful to give direct feedback and explanations, and then obviously, again, check in at a later point to see how that was incorporated and how it's progressed, and have a back and forth with that teacher about what they're doing in the classroom. But in addition to observations, I think it's important to provide our teachers with a lot of exciting professional development opportunities. As a member of the Professional Development Committee, we talk about some of those opportunities. And one of the things that the teachers are really interested in are having conversations with their peers, with other teachers, and listening to their presentations on what works for them. So maybe they can incorporate that into their classroom. So yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to wrap this up, actually. So there are no more questions, so we'll begin with closing statements. And in this case, we'll be going in reverse order, beginning with Mr. Kaufman.
Sure. So first of all, I want to thank all of you once again for coming out tonight and for your thoughtful questions and for taking such an active role in the education of our children. It's clear from our discussion and the questions that we received this evening that you all want nothing more than to deliver a world-class educational experience for your child or your children. I hope that you've come away with a better understanding of who I am and how I plan to serve on the board. As mentioned in my opening remarks, I want nothing more than for all of our children to receive the best education possible, with access to the best programming we can offer that meets the needs of every child in this community. Accomplishing this means acting transparently and utilizing inputs from our parents, teachers, administrators to inform objective decision-making. And I commit to operating in this manner as I would do for any of the companies that I advise. Looking at nearly 2 decades of children in our schools, I'm heavily invested in ensuring that we make responsible and prudent choices today to meet the highest possible bar for educational standards, both for our current students and future students across grade levels and needs. And if you have any open questions, concerns, or simply want to chat, again, please don't hesitate to reach out. You all now have my number. I'm more than happy to hop on a phone call, text, go on a walk, get a coffee, whatever is best for you all. I'm open and available and happy to discuss. Thank you again.
Heather, your turn.
All right. Thank you, Mark and Scott, for joining me tonight, and again, to you at the CPC for hosting us, and to everyone for all their questions. I am asking for your vote on May 21st. My parents moved here almost 40 years ago because they wanted the best possible education for their children. My husband and I now reside in Cold Spring Harbor for precisely that reason. My impassioned desire to continue on as a Board of Education member is motivated by my intention to give back to this school district, whose education has served me so well over the years. In representing our community, I hope to continue my family's legacy of giving back to our schools. My father, a retired high school teacher, like Mark's father, served on this, but he served in this Board of Education for 3 terms. My mother, an elementary school teacher, loved this community, and I like to think she'd be proud of me in this role. As a lifelong resident and parent of children in our schools, my primary focus as a Board of Education member will be to focus on the enhancement of our children's educational experiences and the preservation of our school district's historic standard of excellence. I will be a dedicated board member, prioritizing my position on the board and giving the role of Board of Education member my undivided attention. I have worked hard to foster communication within the district and I will continue to do so, encouraging dialogue among all members of our community, parents, teachers, administrative board, and residents, so that each member of the community is heard. My approach will continue to be a collaborative one, seeking to build on the established success of our schools, and I will bring my 3 years of board experience to the position. I would be honored to continue to represent you and the families as someone who shares your desire that our students graduate Cold Spring Harbor with the best possible education and experiences. Thank you. That's better than the turkey timer.
The turkey
Like,
timer, yeah.
Glad we're ending with this.
Mark, your final
Thank you.
comments?
All right. So just want to clear one thing. My father was a dentist. But,
Oh, but he was also
he
a
was
board,
the president
he
of
was
the
also a
school
board
board.
member, right?
But,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And always told me I didn't brush enough. But anyway, clearly Scott stacked the crowd because you got all the applause throughout the night. But just kidding. Or I didn't say anything worth applause, which is not what I was going for. But anyway, look, honestly, service. This is why I'm here. It's a lot of work. I'm happy to do it. This is my community. This is our community. And I think I have something to offer it. So hopefully you agree. I think this board is going in the right direction, and I want to be a part of it. I think we can make a difference. There's much more transparency now. There's open discussion. If you like the direction or don't like the direction, come to the meetings and speak. They doubled the number of speaker sessions. You get 3 minutes. They made it easier to speak. One of my suggestions was you used to have to sign up at 8 o'clock and you wouldn't speak to 10:30, so I'd go at 8 and then come back at like 9:30. But now they make it more user-friendly, and we, as a community, we're only going to be as good as the parents that are involved. You guys are here, and that's wonderful. You know, meetings, involvement, and, you know, speak up if you don't like something. If I'm on the board, contact me, contact another board member, come to the meetings. We're only going to be as good as, you know, I get stressed with this time thing, with the faculty and team that educate our kids, our board, and your input. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So I want to give a special thank you to Heather, to Mark, and to Scott for coming out tonight, for fielding questions, and for being so willing to run for the Board of Education for the next 3 years. So thank you very, very much, and we'll have a round of applause for everybody.
Thank you.
As a reminder, the vote is on Tuesday, May 21st from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the Cold Spring Harbor Junior Senior High School at the Ralph Whitney Fieldhouse. And the district does offer early and absentee voting, so if that is something of interest to you, please go see the district website for that. The next CPC meeting is on Tuesday, May 14th, and so is the Board of Education meeting on May 14th. So plenty of opportunities to learn more, ask more, and thank you so much.